Hello and welcome back to this course on incentive structures and how to get people to move mountains for you. And in this lesson, we're talking about we have to not only know what drives us and what makes a situation in like we would just feel enthusiastic about it. What are our needs? We need to know even more importantly, and this is, I say even more importantly, because most of the time this is where we mess up in life and in ministry is we know what we want, but we forget about what other people want because we just haven't quite thought about it. So, what are the needs and the pain points of your audience? What do they need in order to be enthusiastic about showing up and about doing the thing, volunteering in a ministry or coming to work or, you know, communicating in a healthy way in a relationship, whatever it is? What are their pains? What are their needs? And the easiest way to find this is literally to just ask them. And this is, and that is one of the best marketing tips I can give you guys ever is just take a poll, just take a survey. Shazeb, you're starting a ministry. Sophie, you're starting a ministry. How do you know what to make that ministry about? What's the goal? We want to impact people on an eternal basis. We want to make a difference in their lives that endures throughout their lives, and then we want to see them in heaven. Okay, well, how do we do that? And let me show you how most pastors do this. And I'm going to show you on my screen. And this is one of the reasons why I'm passionate about what we do at ClickMill. And you're going to begin to see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to share this with you. This is our Google Search Console account. Okay. And you can see here over the last 3 months, we've gotten 125,000 clicks. Okay. But I'm going to show you the articles that are getting clicks. Now, the other word in this list here is sermon topic ideas. Okay. Sermon topic ideas, men's ministry ideas, women's ministry event ideas, women's ministry ideas, women's retreat ideas, church event ideas, and the list continues. These are our top ranking articles. So like 6 of the 10 of our top ranking articles are people looking for ideas. This one right here has had over 18,000 clicks in 3 months. So there's 18,000 ministry leaders who don't know what to talk about and they're looking for ideas. There's 18,000. And then you come down here, men's ministry ideas, about 8,000, 5,000, 4,000, 4,000, 3,000. So when we think and consider what does this mean about ministry leaders, what it means is we're looking for how to make a really great ministry, and we're just pulling ideas literally off of the internet. And when I say literally, I mean, watch this. We'll go into the sermon topics post, and this is how this works. You'll see all these spikes. What day of the week? Anybody want to guess what day of the week that is? The spikes are on Saturday. So what happens is Saturday.
How old is your Sunday?
No, Saturday. They're preparing one day in advance. Okay. So Saturday, they're saying, oh gosh, I don't know what to preach about. And then they come in and they find an idea off of a list of 104 ideas or something. And then they build a sermon off that real quick. Why are we all looking for ideas? And not only that, last minute. Well, firstly, we're overwhelmed because we've got way too much stuff happening. But secondly, we're looking for ideas because we don't know what works. If we just had something that worked really, really well in our ministry, would we be looking for ideas? No, we'd just be doing the thing that worked. So instead, what's happening is they're trying to find event ideas, ministry ideas, and they don't know what works, and they're just pulling it out of a hat that's called Google. It just happens to be our website. You don't need to do that in ministry, because if I'm just pulling an idea out of thin air, I have no idea if my audience likes that or doesn't like that. We don't need ideas. I need to know what they want. And so if you want to know how to structure a ministry to meet the pains and the desires and the needs of your audience, you just go ask them and you do a survey. So yeah, could we have 100 sermon topics on a list? Sure, but they should be picking the sermon topic that is directly relevant to the needs of their audience. That is what the ministry should revolve around. And when you meet the needs of the audience, they will come back to church. Okay. So how do you decide what ideas you need? You don't need ideas. You just need them to tell you their problems, and then you help them have a better life. Okay. So that is a super, super effective and easy way to come up with the audience that God has called you to come up with their pains and their needs and their problems. And then what's the incentive structure? When you come here, we help you have a better life. We help you overcome the issues you're facing, and they're the issues you're actually facing. How do we know? Not because we got them off of an idea board online. It's because you told us this is what you wanted. If you want something else, tell us something else, and we're going to do that because we're dedicated to you 100%. Okay, so that is going to start creating an incentive structure. Now, firstly, how do I know this works? Because all of you are here right now. That would be one way I know this works, because it's exactly what I've done with the internship program. How do I know this work? For example, Rick Warren at Saddleback Church, the first thing he did out of ministry school, he rejected going into someone else's ministry. Saddleback Church is like the biggest church in the world, by the way. They've got like, I don't even know, 50,000. Who even knows? There's so many people in that church. He went to the town he wanted to start the ministry in. He went door to door. People thought he was crazy. He went door to door and asked all of the people in that area, what are the top 3 reasons you don't go to church? Well, I don't like it because of the time, and I don't like it because I always feel judged, and I don't like it because those creepy people at the front door always smile way too big, and I don't know them, and they're trying to, whatever it is. And so they're telling him what it is they don't like. And you know what he did? He made a huge list, and he made sure his church never did any of those things. So he solved all the problems they had. And guess what? He's got the biggest church. Okay. So, first, when we create a win-win incentive structure, you have to know what you need, and then you have to know the needs of your audience so that you can meet those too. And when you have all of your needs met, and when they have all of their needs met, it is in everybody's best interest to be involved in the system. Do you guys have any thoughts or questions on understanding your audience's needs, wants, desires? Thoughts, comments, questions on that?
That's actually a basic business strategy and rule. Like the first thing we need to do is make research,
Yes.
know our audience, know our environment, and then start doing something before investing our time, resources, and
Excellent.
everything into something. We must always first make that very detailed research and think carefully before pulling something out of thin air without knowing if it's even relevant.
Excellent. Thank you. So, Sophie, what do you got?
Thank you.
You talked about us get meeting the needs of the people, like a church who the example you gave, you said the pastor went away to ask, oh, why don't you go to church? And everybody's saying their reasons. I don't want to be judged. Some people smiling at the front and all that. That's what they don't like. So what I have a question. What if in a situation after doing your research and what these people won't actually go against your values, what then do you do?
If they go against your values, what do you mean?
Yeah, okay, these people want certain things, right? And those things you want probably go against your own personal values. You probably don't want to miss in things like that. Then what do you do?
That's great. Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So we actually address that in the strategy course, because a foundation of any ministry or business or family or anything needs to have a couple things. One is vision, others is values. And so here at ClickMill, one of the first things we do, and this is your first week, and I have not even assigned it yet, so this is what you're going to be doing this week, but is going through the top 5 values of high performance Christians. Why? Because I am trying to strategically address the certain ways of thinking that often don't happen in ministry-minded people, really well-intentioned, really driven ministry-minded people. And these values keep them from bringing the results they want. Well, why is that important? Because if the people in my ministry don't do my values, I'm going to have to talk to them, because those values are there for a reason. I didn't just make them up. A lot of ministries just come up and say, well, we believe in truth and respect and decency and these things. And it's like, okay, that's just like, as soon as you're a Christian, you should know those. If you're not being loving, I don't know, you need to go back to Sunday school or something. The values that you want in your ministry are strategically chosen to get you to the vision. And so, for example, if we're going to reach ministry leaders all over the world, we need to be taking action. And we can't be sitting around and waiting for some group of people to approve whether or not we can post a thing. Like, no, if you guys know what needs to be done, do it. We are cruising. We're going 80. And if we break something, great, we'll fix it. That is one of the actions. If someone is in here sitting around and we're not doing anything, they're not showing up, like, I love you, I wish you the best, and you're out, because I don't have time for that. And that's one of the values. So to answer your question, so I know that sounds harsh, and that was a little over, I wouldn't quite be that direct, but but all that said, Sophie, if you have someone in your ministry, if you have a group within your ministry that has a separate set of values, that is a serious problem. Because if you've chosen the values to get the people in your ministry to the vision God's calling them to, and he's calling you to lead them to, you can't get there. This is creating disunity within the church. So we either have to have a loving conversation where we bring them back in, or what's going to happen is you're going to get a silo ministry where you get two groups of people that have different values and different visions, and they're warring over the church resources, which is very common. And you have this silo. And then what will happen over time is that church will split, or, right, because a house divided amongst itself cannot stand. So it will either split, and we all know church splits happen, or it will implode on itself and just disappear. And that often happens as that infighting for resources goes on. Everybody's incentivized to spend faster, 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 faster. This is the classic spend the resources before the end of the year, otherwise your budget gets reduced next year mentality. And what do? You spend faster, 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 and then the church is out of money and everybody loses their jobs. Okay. So when you have a conflicting set of values with some people in the ministry, we approach them, especially if they're unbiblical values. I mean, obviously, I assume we want biblical, but if they're unbiblical values, what do? We approach them one-on-one, communicate with them lovingly. If they still don't hear you, we're going to take a brother or sister and approach them and talk to them. And if that's not it, then what are we going to do? We're going to approach them as a group, as a family. And if they're still unwilling to start living in the Christian way with the values that the Bible teaches, at least, then that's something that is more serious. And it's like, okay, well, if you're not acting like a Christian, then, and you're refusing all of our approaches, then okay, well, we're just going to have to treat you like you're acting. That's okay, but also that's what it is. So that would be one thing. And same thing with values in staff on a ministry. If people do not fit the values of the ministry, same thing with business, you get fired, because you cannot run a ship that's going in two directions. You only go one direction. And if it's trying to go into two directions, you're going to have problems. Does that address your question?
Yes, it does.
Awesome. Yep. And the ideal here is to not make those mistakes on the front end. A lot of people get into ministry, myself included, right? I don't know any of this stuff getting into ministry when I was younger. And you get in and you're like, hey, we'll just take anybody. Come on, everybody hop on, everybody hop on. And then what? You've got 40 visions at your church and nobody knows what's actually going on. And now you've got a big problem, because you can't do anything because everybody wants to do something different. So as you're getting started, clear vision. You set the vision, go through the strategy training, set the vision, and then set the values. And the values say, this is how we are going to reach the vision, right? So for example, massive action is one of our values at ClickMill. And again, this is set up in kind of counter to a lot of ministries, which can often perform much slower. But we're going to take massive action. If you're not taking massive action, you're not operating according to the values. If you're not listening for feedback from users, from me, if I'm not listening to feedback from you guys, I'm not living the values. I need as much feedback as I can get. And what happens in a lot of ministries, we don't listen to feedback. We just think that we have the greatest idea and we're going to put a whole bunch of church funds into it. And then it turns out nobody wanted that and we just wasted a bunch of money. So feedback solves that problem. So the values we have are strategically chosen and we all want to embody them. And you want to get on board with people on the front end that you already know are in line with the values you have. So that would be a little bit of a different subject, but hopefully to answer the question on values. Now, this lesson has been on knowing your audience's needs and wants, and I suppose values could go into that because people want to be engaged in different communities with different values. If we say we're a missions church and we're going to engage in values that take us toward a missions oriented ministry, not everybody is going to want to engage in that. It's a good thing. And not everybody's called to missions and missiony type values. And they're going to go to a church where they have homeless ministry. And that's great because that's where God called them. But at least people know where you stand. And if they're interested in missions, they're going to be enthusiastic about coming to your church or your ministry or your business. So with that, thank you for being in this video. We'll see you in the next one.